closing things off now, us, boy.
Yeah.
Let me talk about us. All right, so this is the second feature film from Jordan Peele. I'll just make this quick joke here before I forget. The last episode of Arrow that aired, a character, I'm not gonna say who, kind of mentions a Jordan Peele marathon. So,
Right.
so I don't know. So let's thinking about that for a second. So let's
Right.
imagine
That-
that's
Because
how
that flash.
Jordan, yeah, that's how Jordan, right, and it's in the future, of course, right?
Yeah,
So
flash forward.
Jordan, of course, started off so strong with Get Out, right? And we'll talk about whether Get Out is better than Us or not, right? We'll talk about that.
Right.
But now he comes again with Us, and the talk is that he is going to stay within the horror genre. So, I am instantly seeing him as like the new, the comparisons they're gonna see instantly is like he's the new Alfred Hitchcock, but for our
Right.
time they're gonna say he's the new M Night Shyamalan, which kind of worries me because you know how strong M Night start off with, and then he put stuff
Yeah.
like Glass, which we reviewed and we kind of hated,
Glass, and
but
glass was.
yeah, Glass was really disappointed. But yeah, I mean, I am so glad for Jordan Peele. I'm glad that he was able to make that smooth transition from being just this comic actor to being a full-fledged director, just really making great films. You know what I mean? And not just great films in terms of the genre, but just challenging, thought-provoking films. And I really thought that he really hit the whole thought-provoking and challenging nails on the head with us. But yeah, I do see him really making more films. I mean, and that's gonna say that all of them are going to be masterpieces. I can't see that right now, but I doubt that they will be. But I want them to be, you know, as good, if not as great, as the previous film. And last thing I'll say before, well, you get to what the synopsis is. Uh, Even though I didn't really care about it that much, but I just want to talk about it briefly. The whole talk that he said with a recent interview where he not gonna cast a white lead in his films. People like, oh, Jordan's racist, all that kind of stuff. But I
Right.
mean, given the history of Hollywood and given what he was
Well,
able to do, not just with Get Out, but particularly with Us, having his the leads in this film be black, be African
right.
Americans. I understand where he's coming from. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Until I understand the full quotas, like it wasn't that big of a deal. What you say now. It's one of those things that people take slightly out of context. But whatever. I didn't. This wasn't nothing to think about. It wasn't interesting. What you say there.
Yeah, same here too. Like I just saw an article or two, and then just turned to more articles because people just thought that he was racist. I was like, come on, really? Like really? That's how they could misinterpret what the man say? Like, come on.
Yeah.
But anyway, but us is here at long last. We were excited for this ever since the first trailer came out, um, especially with the use of loonies. I got 5 on it, and
Yeah.
well, yeah, more people actually gonna check out their music, myself included, which is great for them because I always thought that they were like one of the more underrated West Coast rap duos of the 90s. So I'm just glad that people are actually checking out their music now. I hope their albums as well too, not just that one song that kind of just skyrocketed them to fame. You know what I mean? But yeah, Us. What is Us about, Ricardo?
Right. So basically, sometime in the mid 80s, 1986 to be certain, um, this girl had a traumatic experience, something that she witnessed, and is implied it can affect her for the rest of her life. And now she kind of, well, that thing has kind of come back and is in the form of some kind of strange doppelganger, and they have to deal with that.
All right, I actually like how straightforward and spoiler free and vague that review was. Well, sorry, that synopsis was. I learned from you. I learned how you do that. So I will start off with the comparison. A lot of people have been asking this question: is Us better than Get Out? I would say yes and no.
Yeah, this one is
Yes,
a
it
this one is a thinker.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly,
like,
exactly. That's all I'll say with the yes. Yes,
while,
in terms
while get
of yeah, while
yeah,
while while Get Out was straightforward, and
right. But
you got
else,
the questions answered, and it's just a matter you kind of sitting on thinking, yeah, now I see how this fits and whatnot. Us kind of has a lot of leaves a lot of things open ended, so you have to think about it. And for some people, like case in point, one of my friends, who we went to see the show yesterday at was recorded, and he came
Yeah.
out rather disappointed. He was confused by it. He figured that the movie would have answered the questions, because there's a lot of questions being asked here, and there's a lot of weirdness, there's a lot of absurdity going on. So yeah, for me personally, I was hoping that the show would answer these questions. Like, there's a lot of absurd stuff going on. So please, Jordan Peele, answer the question: why? What is going on? What is going on? And he just kind of says, "Well, I'll answer some of your questions, but the others you had to think about it, right?" And I got that. I really 100% with that. I love that aspect of the movie.
Yeah.
But I still think that Get Out is the better of the two, not just because the questions
Right.
that are being raised are answered, but because it just touched on this nerve of race, and just, it touched on just these social issues. And while here, it was just your basic kind of visceral horror film. It really harkens back to old school horror films, which something I really
Right.
genuinely loved about this, and sci-fi films, which I'll talk about later on. But I was expecting a social message or two. There is,
Right.
but that's more on the interpretive side of things. You can interpret it
Right.
as, oh, it's about class and social class and whatnot. But
Yeah,
it,
as one of
it,
those you
it
could read.
that's open to interpretation. So it wasn't like, oh well, that's really what the show is about. This, if you think that's what it's about, then I guess that's what it is. But for me, I felt that it could have touched on something that's going on in our society. And because I don't know, like with how Get Out was, I figured that this was going to be, Jordan Peele's slant. Like, he was going to be Spike Lee in a way, but instead of like hammering certain points over your head, he's going to use the genre of horror to do that for him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Is with a Spike Lee meets Rod Serling, right? You thought he was
Yes.
getting that,
Correct.
but nah.
Yeah. But you
No,
didn't really
yeah,
get that with us though. And that
right.
was a slight letdown for me. That's why I wouldn't say that, us is way better than Get Out.
No, no.
Yeah.
I agree with you mostly because again, it only really had one question I would have liked answered, and it didn't answer that. At least as far as I know, it didn't answer that. I mean, somebody probably pick up on the answer with some detail or something that they are missing the story watching it over. But this one is, as I say, it's a thinker. I could see somebody not liking it, like outright hating it in some ways.
Yeah. 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 Me too. Me too.
Yeah, but I enjoyed for what it was, and well, mostly because of the doppelgangers and what they were seeing and talking about in particular. The final
Yes.
twist is not that surprising. It's like, all right, okay, that was the thing, but not a particularly interesting twist. It's
It
one
was,
of those
yeah, it
big,
wasn't as strong as I was expecting it to be. Like, I
right,
wanted that twist to just knock me off my seat. I'd be like, oh my
yeah,
god, but then it just kind
right,
of happens. Like, okay,
okay.
all right,
It's one of those. Is what you call bingo twist. It just
ah,
falls within.
yeah,
It falls within the bingo block of what you expect now.
right,
Nothing
right,
surprising or interesting or and not executed particularly special either. Um, that's it. I mean, I didn't really see anything thinking about it. There's some good kills in this. Again, the world building of it is what they should have really make the effort to answer. Why, certain, well, basically one particular entity involved is doing what it's doing, and why did it do this? And it wasn't
yes,
particularly clear
yes,
what was the connection to me. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I could somebody out there had to do it. 'Cause what happens? I avoided all of the discussions and quote unquote spoiler discussions involved. Throughout the week, I didn't know. I want to know what it was going on, but I couldn't. So I couldn't make it sense. I suppose I'll go back and look back what going on, why this thing happened.
yeah,
And somebody might have dropped an idea and say, okay, I could see what they're talking about or whatever it is. But yeah, I wanted some more clear answers, and I didn't really get that. And that, I suppose, with a couple extra viewings, I might increase the story a little better. But it was good for what it was. I mean, I was fine with it. I didn't really have any big disappointment. I thought, oh, this is some real let's call this existential bullshit kind of thing. No, not really.
yeah, yeah,
It was fine. Just that
right.
again, I think you make the joke. 'Cause I was scrolling online and you say, yeah, this is the pilot for John Peele's Twilight
Yeah, like
Zone
this
episode.
this literally is like the should have been the season premiere of Twilight Zone, Jared.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That's what it feel like. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Uh,
cause for those who still kind of wondering if Jordan Peele kind of just trying way too hard, be like if he just be a little bit too overambitious with this whole Twilight Zone thing. Yeah, look at us. Us kind of shows
right,
that the man really want to be the next Rod Sillinger, like for real,
right.
for real.
I
Yeah.
know, and we could kind of since Twilight Zone's premieres tomorrow by the time it's
Yes, it is.
recorded,
The time is recorded.
I just kind
Um,
of give
and
a
I
quick
think
comment.
I think the first episode, or I think it's two episodes we're supposed to get, but I know one is the classic Nightmare at 20,000 feet.
Right. Okay, so they're
20,000 feet.
remaking that then. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm really excited for that. 'Cause to me, that is one of the best stories. I would
Well,
say one of the most enjoyable Twilight Zone episodes, like bar none. I
yeah.
love when they remade it for the Twilight Zone movie. I love
Yes.
the original one, of course, the design of
Yeah.
the creature. That's all I'll say. But I'm really curious to see how they play that out in this one here, with
Right.
this, season premiere. And before I forget, yes, we will check it out and we will review it in our next episode.
Yeah. No. Just before we continue review, just a quick commentary on just the context of Twilight Zone in today's world.
Uh-huh.
The thing is, we haven't really had a strong face in the Twilight Zone paradigm now, because last time the last host was who? What do you call him? This sort of Zuri from Black Panther. What's his name?
Um. Oh, okay. No, well, Forrest Whitaker, right? All right.
Forrest
So
Whitaker, right? But the thing is, Forrest Whitaker is not a writer, and we haven't had someone on the like Rod Serling. Rod Serling was writer and the host.
yes.
So I want to see if they could, Jordan Peele could fill that role and have that celebrity hype going into it. Um, yeah, we'll see. It's interesting to see how that plays itself out. I'm not sure how
Yeah.
this going to work as a show. Here's one of the big red flags for the show. It kind of had the same problem that Star Trek Discovery has, which is CBS All Access. That
Yeah.
bullshit.
Why, yo? Why? We still had to
Bullshit
wait
on
a
that.
week for these episodes. Like, I don't know. So dumb me, right? A little detour here. All right, CBS All Access. You could only watch these shows here, right? So why like this and the DC platform where Titans and Doom Patrol and Young Justice are on, right? Why we still had to wait weekly for these episodes though?
Yeah, dumb.
Like you would think like with Netflix being what it is, you could get to see all these episodes one time, but no, I still had to wait a week. So what's the point of CBS All Access then?
Yeah, it kind of
Just say
it generally point is just to get some extra $7
yeah.
a month from you
And right now
effectively.
CBS have a lot of crap on their schedule, like a lot of crap. They have some sort of American Gladiators, kind of like a physical endurance kind of show. You know what I mean? And what is the big sell with it by? LeBron James hosting it and all that kind of stuff. And I
But,
like, well, you could have
but,
just take that out and put Twilight Zone though. Like, I
yeah,
mean, come on, just see. You know what I mean?
it had nothing working for it. CBS All Access really only had Star Trek Discovery, and even that is even that you could say people was like, well, we don't really like Star Trek Discovery anyway, or it had a bunch of like it had no big set of people really clamoring for the show. Like I generally like and defend the show, but like I see a lot of people just not going out of the way for All Access. Anyway, in the case of Discovery is only really one day ahead, which is much more intelligent from Netflix. And yeah, they should kind of do the same thing for Twilight Zone. If they're doing this weekly bullshit, cut out. That won't work. Stop it. Get some help. CBS All Access, not worth it. And
Thank you.
it's only
Yeah.
it's only hamstring the show. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah, but what I was gonna
Back to
say about the about just quickly about the Twilight Zone thing. So I wasn't familiar with the '80s Twilight Zone. I know that was the one that was the first time I ever heard of the term Twilight Zone, right? But when sci-fi came into the play, and there was the 1959 series go on, that was the one that I attached to. So I didn't really care for the
yeah,
'80s one, but I can't remember. Was there? I think there was one in the 2000s, right? But was that the one that
yeah,
Forrest Whitaker narrated, or was it the one in the
yeah.
80s?
No, that's the one in the 2000s. The 2000s was his version. Because that just ended off. It started right a couple years after Outer Limits ended in the 90s
Right,
Outer
right.
Limits.
I remember
Uh,
the '90s one.
right, but the 90s Outer Limits was a big hit, at least amongst nerds. and sci-fi fans, but this Twilight Zone just kind of came and went. It just kind of fell flat. And yeah, I'll just argue because they had no interest in original stories, and they remake all the stuff in all the worst ways. You know? That is one of the big problems with Twilight Zone is that look, have some classic stories, and I have no problem with you. Some truly classic timeless stories you could remake or at least reboot or recall for a modern time. But
Yes.
really, what you try to do is come up with some really original stuff, not try to remake too many stories.
Yeah.
It's
And
a
this
problem.
is why, Jordan Peele being, well, producer and narrator and well, hopefully writer for this makes a lot of sense.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So getting back to the show here, right? So good thing with this, as I expected, there's a ton of great in this, right? So first off, the cast, of course, Lupita Nyong'o is fantastic in
Yeah.
this. Uh, now I decided the genre of horror, and well, with her in particular because she has to play dual roles, right? There are a few moments where like both the good side and the bad side would have these like facial features and like these facial stuff that she's doing there, and then also this kind of stuff that she says, especially the evil doppelganger whose name is Red, by the way. It kind of comes off a little on the absurd side, but it's horror. It's going for that whole shock thingness. So I'll let that slide. Just a few moments, but other than that though, her performance I would say is Oscar worthy. I would say it equals that of uh oh gosh, Toni Collette from Hereditary.
Right,
And
right, right.
it's really sad though that that actors and actresses who star in horror films don't even get nominated for Oscars. Like I don't think that's ever happened. Well, I guess with the exception of say Silence of the Lambs, but that's more thriller than horror. But I talk about like modern horror, you know what I mean? And just so much that they have to do emotionally, so much that they had to convey with their face and just their body and stuff like that. And that is what Lupita did, and she just like knocked it out of the park. Though I thought that, yeah, she was near perfect in my opinion. Winston Duke, I get that
You,
he was the comical relief, but
yeah,
admittedly,
I don't like him.
it took a while for me to get his character. 'Cause I felt that
I don't like him
he
too.
was too goofy, and
Look,
it was goofy for the sake of being goofy. But like, there's moments where when things get intense, like when the doppelgangers show up and they attack, and he would do things, and you're like wondering, bruh, like I know you're not like the biggest baddest guy on the block, dread, but like okay, you like slight spoiler, you get hit in the leg, right? And you did like, oh my
yeah,
god, oh, I like you can't like drag yourself a little bit quicker to get to the next point to try to escape. No, you just like, no, no, But I'll talk about those moments in a bit, right? But I thought that, yeah, performance wise, he was great. Like in terms of just on screen presence, he was great. It's just that, yeah, I understand he's the comic relief, but it was slightly on the goofy end. But I get that's his character. You know what I mean? So and points for the strong character development as well. Too. Okay, yeah, he's just the goofy, nerdy guy who married and had two kids, right?
yeah.
He'll crack a steel joke or two. He'll come in a little bit awkward, when it comes to like a conversation. He's that type of character, right? And that will make him relatable to me, in
I
my
think the
opinion.
problem is that I think the problem is that he yeah, I don't think he was that good because again the idea was that he's just goofy dad, right? You know, dad with the dad jokes and dad in the top.
Yeah,
But it
that you're
just
exactly that at the top.
yeah, but I don't think he particularly was engaging for me enough. And well, because he wasn't the main character, it didn't really matter, I suppose. But yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think I wasn't that particularly impressed with his performance in this.
yeah. And one other gripe that I have with him is that you're the dad, and you not just the breadwinner, but you had to protect your family, Trent. But there were
Right.
moments where it just kind of felt like he would just drop the ball, or say slight spoiler, drop the bat one too many times.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
It's just like, bro, like, come on, Jen, step it up, man, step up, do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
oftentimes he does, but it's really to save his own skin and get back to the family. That's what it really is. It's all about saving his skin and get to the family, not the other way around, basically, right? Um, I thought that the kids, they have a son and a daughter. I thought that they were decent.
It was good.
They were surprisingly really good, especially Gil.
It was good, yeah.
I think this is like first time performances by them. The boy took a little while for me to get into because he's not special, but like he's very introverted.
Yeah.
And there's
At
something
first,
slightly off with him, which is
yeah,
something I like about the
I
show.
thought, you're right. This is another question that they could kind of answer, which is,
Why
you
why he
know,
acting like that? Yeah.
Well, not so much, but well, okay, so there's a slight spoiler, but everybody has a doppelganger called the Tethered, right?
Yes.
And it's this whole idea of quote unquote, one soul, two bodies, right? That's kind of the working paradigm of what's going on here. But the thing is, he seemed to be the most connected to his Tethered. Um,
Yes, you're right. You're right. And they never
yeah,
really explain why.
now explain
Um,
why
and they
in
kind
that.
of hint that well, the real kid, the real boy, yeah, is kind of like a social, kind of awkward.
Well,
He's yeah, kind of a social outcast. So he's rather
I
awkward when
thought,
he's around people and
right.
stuff like that. But
Well, I thought it was going for something kind of on the autistic spectrum kind of thing. I thought it was going for that, or that was the character.
yeah,
Um, but I didn't read into it too much because you could say autistic, but it's not really autistic. It's just some people just introverted and just they didn't really get itself yet, and then they have genuine diagnosis of autism. But I really thought that was what he was going for, but no, didn't really get it. He just seemed to be just introverted. So whatever.
yeah, yeah. But how they work in the connection between him and his doppelganger was pretty interesting though compared to the others. All I would say though, the one that has the most interest, the most interesting the relationship wise was the one of Lupita and her doppelganger Red.
Yeah, like
More particularly with the fact that Red actually talks. She actually speaks,
right.
but the way how she talks is in this sort of like not to spoil anything, but basically that there's something wrong with her throat, it's always like she has to force words out, so it has this kind of breathy kind of voice to her character, but it sounds very terrifying and creepy. So it's like, oh, one day, like that. It sounds really
Yeah,
weird, but the way how Lupita does it works. It was a laughable the first time I heard it, but I was like, all right, I get into it. And then when they kind of reveal why it's that case, like, oh, okay, that's.
yeah, and you,
I,
you
I wish I
understand why.
picked up on it sooner. Okay, yeah,
Right. As,
right,
as, as you mentioned earlier, that the only kind of working, subtext of the film is class, right? And not so much class, but nature versus nurture and environment. And that's the only thing that you could kind of read from the film or pull from it. Again, given with the reveal at the ending. Um, that's the only thing had going for it. Because everything else was like, well, why this happening? Who doing this? Why did X, Y, and Z did that? And why did
yeah,
they do it for this reason? And okay, that's it. That is why, and it was unclear because when they saw the first images on a television set and what it was, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that was a thing, and I knew that was going to be relevant to the plot. Um, I didn't get what why it was being done and what is going for. And like again, if they had an answer, that could have worked.
yeah.
Uh,
I will talk about that in a bit, right? But I just wanna get the rest of good, right? Also I thought that the cinematography was superb in my opinion. There's lots
yeah,
and lots and lots of great shots, great use of lighting, especially for like the darker, nocturnal
yeah,
moments, especially with the home invasion scenes though. I really thought
yeah,
that yes, just the cinematography there worked very, very well, just in creating that tone and the tension and whatnot. The music, Michael Ebels, I believe that's how you pronounce his surname.
yeah,
Second film that he scored, the first one being, not surprising, Get Out, right? I
yeah,
love how how he utilizes a lot of strings. He has this kind of orchestral thing going on. There's this great moment, although it almost took me out of it because it was just so weird and different. But then as I got into it, I was like, all right, this is kind of cool though. He does this dark orchestral version of Looney's I Got Five on It.
yeah, yeah,
For a rather interesting scene now Goda is one of the most unique things I've seen in 2019, bar none. It was just so weird and strange. But I say that I was like, it's kind of cool though. Like I like this. Like I would
yeah.
not have thought
I
of
enjoy
a
what he was
scene
doing.
like that.
Yeah, I enjoy what he was doing with that. That was interesting on its own.
Yeah,
Um,
but I know for some people it might take them out. They might find it to be too weird and bizarre. But I don't know, boy. It's just something about this. Is like, huh? All right, this is cool. Like I really never saw anything like this before. As far as the whole I got 500 thing, like I imagine a lot of people will be so far, will go so far as to try to interpret what the song is about, where essentially song is just about, yeah, guys passing blunts around and smoking weed, you know what I mean? So there's no real big meaning to it. But people are gonna try to overanalyze the song and then wonder, well, why? is there this dark orchestral version of it in the movie? So does that mean that there was a reason why the song was played earlier on in the film? Is that supposed to hint at something bigger? We don't know, but I don't think that there is some kind of big reason. I just think that it's because the intro be that doom doom, that boom boom doom doom. Just
Yeah.
sounds kind of weird and dark anyway, and he just figured, hey, well, what if we could use this and actually put this in a movie and be creative and clever with it? I think that's it. It's just a creative choice. I don't think there's any big meaning to it, right? So the, the one thing that kind of took me in and out of the movie, right? But this is where I was kind of questioning what Jordan was trying to do in the movie here. Was the I don't want to call them cliches, but the conventions that he uses here, because it employs the home invasion genre. It has like this sort of a slight zombie vibe going on. I was also picking up like a invasion of the body snatchers stuff going on here, basically. So it's kind of playing on old familiar horror films, especially like from the 70s, especially with the title credits being what they were, very 70s inspired, in my opinion, or I should say late 60s, because yeah, Jordan Peele's a huge fan of Rosemary's Baby, and the text kind of remind me
Correct.
of that. Similar to Get Out, it has that same style, right? And especially with the creepy music that he used, very much like a Rosemary's Baby in a way. Also kind of like the Omen in a way, the sort of like Latin chants basically, but
Yeah.
that song in particular really stuck to me. Really creepy, kind of weird, but you could tell that it's Jordan kind of paying homage to that style of horror, right? But yeah, but the horrific moments, right? And like I said before, because he's going for more visceral horror where it's just like characters are in danger. It's not like it's slowly building, like say a Get Out. It's just like characters are in danger right now. What are they gonna do? They have to run, they have to escape, they get hurt, get sliced, whatever, right? Moments like that, I was kind of wondering if it was just trying to be like a parody of horror films. Because, yeah, characters would
Right.
kind of do things that I would say don't make sense, but just kind of dumb. I mean, but,
Well,
but here's the thing.
yeah, but
Just want to wrap this up before we could get to your thoughts, right? So, use a quote that Double Toasted used, right? Black stereo. I saw this in Trini stereo, right? I know you probably saw it the same way too, Ricardo. And the audience I saw it with, they were cracking up. They were laughing at
yeah.
all the horrific moments, like, ah, you know, we just cracking up now. And I was in my head, I was telling myself, is that what Jordan is going for? Does he just want the horror film that will get the audience engaged? They're gonna be laughing, you know what I mean? Because
What?
yes, there is a really effective blend of horror and comedy, yeah? Really effective, yeah?
Right.
Where it's
Yeah.
almost like something horrific will happen and then something comedic will happen. Just the way how
Right.
he balanced that was effortless in my opinion. But I was wondering really if it was all intentional, the sort of goofy moments where a character would do something kind of as we see in Trinidad out of time, you
Well,
know. So like
yeah.
this don't make no sense, but you're
Yeah.
wondering if he's just doing that to get the audience engaged, to get them laughing, to kind of keep them from not picking up on the real story, what's really going on, you know what I mean? And that's where we'll get to the end. But yeah, that's all I'll say for now. Well, Ricardo, you wanna weigh in on what I was saying or not?
No, yeah, yeah. As I said, you had really a genuine comedy person, and he's a guy who specializes in absurdist comedy in the
Yes,
movie, which
yes,
is
yes.
Tim Heidecker, of Tim and Eric fame, right? And he, I think, fit in the role, but he didn't really do much because he was just like, oh well, he just had this one joke with him and his wife, played by Elizabeth Moss,
Yeah.
um, which was
I
okay,
did like Tim's doppelganger. I like what he did with that. Could have done a little bit
right?
more,
That was
but I wish
interesting,
they could. Yeah, I like what he did with that. That was cool.
right? And that was kind of interesting in its own right, but it was working in its own premise of what was what was again all of this would have worked better if it was in service to the final plot of what was really going on and why it was happening. Like why
Yes, yes,
exactly
yes.
it was happening. Was the reasoning behind it? It couldn't just be just just for those reasons. Like those are generally good reasons plot writers to do something, but you need to still have a final purpose to why it's happening. And they didn't really give us that, and I had a problem with that.
Yeah. But this one I'll talk about the ending in a bit, right? But just
Right.
to kind of expound on what I was just saying. Yeah, so like even your heroes themselves will just do stuff, and you're kind of wondering, well, all right, why you would do this? Why you would run that way? Why you would take long to do this action? Like the person's
Right.
right there. Why would you do that now? So once again, I still think that it's all intentional. I was taking everything as just being intentional. It's not like sloppy writing. I just think because Jordan knows a lot about horror, he's just doing these things to get the audience distracted. Basically, that's what I feel like he was just doing this as a distraction to kind of you know get viewers away from what really is going on. But then when the final moments happen, that's what it puts things in a whole new direction. You kind of have to go back and ask yourself what really was going on. Because yeah, he was just busy laughing and pointed and saying, "Oh, you are stupid," blah 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 blah. But then when the ending hits us, like now I have to go back and think about it. And not just with the doppelgangers themselves, but that's really the characters as well. You know what I mean? All I like though is that with the doppelgangers themselves, they do things slightly opposite of their human counterparts. So like let's just say with Winston Duke's doppelganger, Winston Duke himself, because he's kind of sheepish and he won't do certain things. You have the doppelganger who's more direct, you know what I mean? He'll more do things. But because they have similar personalities, this is just my speculation. That's why he could have just killed him easily. But he didn't really do that, you know. He kind of just
Right.
knocked him out or
No, no,
whatever,
no.
you know. So
Okay,
I
so
think it's
I
part of,
that part
you know,
no, that part was interesting, the consistency of it, because the white family's clones killed them immediately.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly, yeah,
right. So I didn't. That was plot wise. I kind of get what was going on there in terms of like what was being explained. I was like, okay, this makes sense. That kind of makes sense. And I really again, I don't know. Again, feeling this is one of those movies that could I have one more pass at the script. You get that feeling because I didn't know.
yeah,
Again, I'm not sure what he was going for in the end, and because it was so unclear what he was trying to go for. So
right.
that's the only big reservation of the film. Now. I don't know.
Right. Last things last before we get to rate it, because as much as we could talk, for hours about this show, this is clearly one that we have to see again. And yeah, it's really designed that you have to watch it again and form your own hypothesis or whatever on it, right? But to me, how I saw the whole show in general is once again using Twilight Zone for example. Like, the argument would be that yes, there are many, many episodes of Twilight Zone where it's just about characters in a weird situation and they get out of it or they don't, right? But as to what is going on or why it's going on, in particular, there's not really a clear explanation though. Like there's episodes where you have just enough world building for you to understand what's going on, right? But then there's
Yeah.
this episodes where, and in particular, well, a case in point, Mirror Image, right? A famous episode of Twilight Zone, which, yeah, Jordan was inspired by, where basically is this woman, she's at this train station, she's waiting to get on a train, and then she sees herself outside, and it's just, who is this person, basically, right? And then, well, spoiler at the very end, it happens to somebody else. There's a doppelganger of that second person. They never say where the doppelganger come from. It's just, well, what if there's another version of you, doing that. So it's never like an explanation as to why things are happening, but it's just how the characters reacted, and that's how I see us basically being, And
Yeah.
all this is intentional, in my opinion. So as far as the spoilers go, as the big reveal, um, there's not really a big explanation as to the why now. It's just the what. This is what it is. This is the doppelgangers. This is what happened. But there's never a why. Why do they wear these red suits? Why do they have golden scissors? Why they have
Right.
to go through this elaborate plot? Why they have to leave where they are to go to the surface, basically, to do what they do. Was this some big ulterior plan from the 80s? Because I was
Right.
thinking it was like a cult, it was some kind of plan to take over America. Maybe that's why the title is Us, US, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Maybe that's the
Right.
reason,
Right. Right.
but they
But
don't explain it. They don't give any clear explanations why. It's just
right.
what. This is what happened.
Right.
What. This is
And then
what led to that point.
another thing in film, this is the last kind of point I'll make before rating. Another thing in film is that it had basically a big old expo dump, which I generally hate, and I kind of hate in this movie. There is a big old
Yeah, it was too heavy exposition
it's
dump.
long.
They could
It's a
have
lot
kept a
like
few things.
no,
They could have kept back a
yeah,
few things. I did do it, but oftentimes
right.
just all right, I'm gonna tell you everything that's gonna happen. Bam, 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 bam. Because it just kept out a few little points, so when you watch it again, you could piece together by yourself. And I
Right.
understand you have to kind of give context to what was happening over the past hour and 40 minutes, but still. You're thinking like with Get Out, they will answer everything, but because they don't, you had to go back and really ask yourself, well, well, since you didn't answer these set of questions, then it didn't really make that much sense to kind of explain all this stuff first. If at the end you're still not gonna tell me exactly what's going on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But
I
yeah,
know about it.
but overall, like this is Joe. Like I said, this is Jordan Peele. This is Jordan Peele's official Twilight Zone episode. Like if he had the chance to write episodes, and I'm really hoping that he do. And I'm not talking about like adapt from classic material that Rod Serling and Richard Matheson and Ray Bradbury wrote, but his own work there. This is how it would be. You know what I mean? And I would confess, like after I saw the show, I was watching some spoiler reviews, some things that I didn't pick up on that they reveal, and I didn't really get into the analysis stuff. I probably will do that later on, or maybe when I watch it again, when I go in and I form my own little hypothesis, and then I compare to what other people say. Yeah. And this is the type of show. This is what it was designed to do. It was supposed to be challenging, right? Not as thought provoking as Get Out, but really more challenging. Because just off that last shot alone, people like I imagine people would have walked out like, "What? What is this?" But I came out
Yeah.
like, I get what the man was trying to do. I get what he was trying to do. He gave you the genre film, which is just the visceral horror, right? But that was just a disguise. That was just to disguise it from what really is going on. And for some people, like once they
Yeah.
kind of pick up or go in, they might find the film to be kind of pretentious and just
Well, look,
dumb. But I don't
as
think
I
so. I don't think that's what he's going for. It was supposed to be
as and
challenging and really make it think about what's going on. And I imagine, yes, a couple people are gonna analyze this film, but hopefully for the right reasons. I don't want people to come like a few years later and say, this is why us fails, and this is why us sucks. You know what I mean? Because the
right.
story didn't make any sense, and logically, I think this is like my big gripe that logically certain things don't make sense at all. You know what I mean? But once again, Twilight Zone, make that comparison.
Right. No, as I say, my thing is that if the ending had it kind of backward in terms of what the logic of it was, because it just seemed to be done for its own sake rather than given a clear purpose as to why it's being done. That's the thing.
Agreed.
So if you
Yeah, yeah, agreed.
accept it on that level, then the movie works. If you don't accept it on that level, the movie kind of doesn't work as well or kind of falters. And for me personally, I thought it faltered because I would have liked a clearer answer as to why this happened. Like in Get Out, when the reveal happens, there is a very clear answer as to why.
Yeah,
Right? We know
and that
why.
was quite that was quite shocking and thought provoking for
Right.
me. Like
Because
when I saw it.
in Get Out, well, with the big, well, I could think we could spoil Get Out. We don't
Of
have
course,
to
like the
spoil
movie
us.
is like what, 2 years old by now?
Right.
Yeah, man, spoil it.
In the case of Get Out, why it works is because of just the sheer utility of, well, immortality, right?
Yes.
And
But they just took it on this new
and
context, so well, race
like,
basically, right?
Raoul slash Orochimaru, you know, that
Yeah,
and that works on its own merit because even if you're saying there's a utility to the racial angle, the utility is using the racial angle on its own merit because that's the nihilism of the situation. As in, you have a bunch of people who are not really racist, but they know full well racism fucking works,
yeah,
and they'll use it to its own sake. It have many people who in a racist system not actually racist. That's the whole rub. That's what the rub of it is. They're not actually racist, but they need racism to flourish. Right? That's it.
yeah.
That works. And the subtext will. That's why I kind of read that subtext in Get Out. That's my just kind of my amateur reading of Get Out. Right?
No, but
Uh,
that's a great observation right there. Actually, it actually makes me kind of want to go back and think about it from that perspective.
because when the guy says, "Look, I not into this as much," when he started to talk to him, the old man who's dying, he's like, "Yeah,
Yes.
look, I not into this as much as you, but look, I need your eyes." That's it. He just
Yeah.
that's it, right?
Exactly.
They
Yeah.
leave it, cool. This didn't have that. At no point I got what the well, I don't want to sell it out necessarily, but in the beginning of the movie, why that was necessary. And I remember that was a thing, that was a very real thing, um, Well, I didn't get why that was necessarily relevant to the plot. Pussy.
Yeah, they could have just developed that a little bit and make us actually kind of, well,
Give a
not
shit.
just yeah, that, and kind of buy into it, like, maybe back in the 80s this was like a plot to do this, you know what I mean? So you make you
That's like common. It works in that's like common conspiracy theory stuff, right? Because again, you can get into big arguments about um black people and thought and like it was everybody in everybody, but it was black people and governmental experiments and these kind of things. I have all this history of all of that conspiracy stuff. And well, the FBI want to secretly, they secretly monitor video games to look for champions of beating video games. And have a
yeah.
whole running conspiracy theory about that stuff, right? The
Oh,
film does
and as you say that, sorry to cut you, as you say that, one of the characters says a couple of conspiracy theory lines as well too, kind of hinted
yeah,
that it will come to an end. So that was great
right.
foreshadowing there.
I get all that, right, because she mentioned
Yeah,
fluoride
she
in water.
did. Yeah,
Right.
the daughter
I
did.
get
Yeah,
all that. All that is
fluoride.
fine.
Yeah,
Right.
fluoride being used to
In
brainwash people.
which is like a common conspiracy theory, like a really popular common conspiracy theory that you hear all the time.
Yeah,
And all it's fine, but you see, when you're saying that, and you can't just say it for its own sake. That's not, in my opinion, it's not. It doesn't work on its own sake. You have to give that itself a final purpose. And what they do with it is not like I don't know what's the point of that. If you accept it for its own sake, and given what you understand about power structures and whatnot, it's perfectly fine. If you
yeah.
don't, you have a problem. Then I am the kind of guy that needs, again, I need my Aristotelian final cause to address what's going on here now.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. I kind of wish that there was a little bit of logic involved because, yes,
Right.
people will come out kind of questioning the logic in it, and you could say, well, it's not so much about the logic, it's just about the scenario, i.e., like a Twilight
Right.
Zone episode. But
Right.
once
Right.
again, because, and not just because it's Jordan Peele, but because of the canvas that they use here, this broad canvas they use here, you kind of have to question the logic of it at the very end, you know what I mean? But
Right. Right.
overall, at the end, just to get to it, is overall, I do see this being like regarded as one of the great horror films in terms of just the genre, as in delivering genre thrills and whatnot, right? And for
Yeah.
me personally, like I wanted it to be a lot more scary. It's more thrilling than anything else. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I'm the one who kind of wants to go in and be scared. When I see a horror, I get my thrills, but I didn't get enough scares. But I wouldn't really fall that, right? You know what I mean? It's just designed to get the audience excited and get them engaged in what's going on. But like I keep
Right.
saying, it's just to distract them from what is actually going on. And as for that, that's really, it leaves it out there. So it's just basically for you to see it again and hopefully try to piece things together. Although I think no matter how much times you do see it, you will get the full answer anyway. But I do imagine that the more times I see it, more I'll be impressed by this. 'Cause, yeah, this is a solid second outing from Jordan Peele. And yeah, because he's stick with horror, I just can't wait to see what he has to do next. I know he tried to make the big masterpiece here, like once again, one of the greatest of all time kind of movies. This one was close, but it didn't really make it there as such. But yeah, this is a solid entry, not just in his filmography, but just in the horror genre as well. You know what I mean? And not just in terms of just delivering the thrills and the scares, but making us think at the very end, making us kind of not really haunting us with the end of the film or with the big twist and whatnot, but just having us think about what happened and just kind of thinking about it with ourselves and where we are in society and stuff like that. So rated wise for me, I will give this a decent to a strong 4. I imagine with more viewings, this will go to a strong 4. Maybe it might be in my top 10 for the year. But right now, I kind of think it'll just be between, 6 and 10. Like I wanted it to be like top 5, but kind of doubt that. Like,
Yeah.
Get Out was number 5 for me back in 2017. But this one
Right.
can either be within the 6 to 10, category basically. But in no way am I saying that this is a terrible film or you will come out of it feeling disappointed. Although I guess that depends on the viewer. But if you want to just go in and get your horror thrills and be challenged at the same time, yeah, check out Us. What's your rating, Ricardo?
For me, I guess I'm movie town.
Low
Um,
movie tone. I was thinking that you would.
more on the
I
no,
was
more on the
thinking you
higher
would give
end.
this a low movie tone. I was thinking,
No, no, no.
Ricardo could give this a low movie tone. Though.
No, yeah, more on the higher end of things. Because it still have a lot of stuff that I like in it, and piece. And but because I'm not a horror fan per se, I don't know what to look for necessarily, like in terms of what does make a great horror or anything like that. I just characters just have to kind of start making sense in terms of decision making, and they were kind of making sense in terms of decision making until coming on to the end. So that is it. I like the first two acts of this film, and then the third act just kind of faltered for me. But
Yeah,
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 and then the big reveal, or the I wouldn't say the twist, but the reveal wasn't that particularly special. Not bad, but just not special. Again, it's in the bingo board, as in it's something that you would just kind of guess. Um, you could guess, and you say, "Oh, well, this is what might be," and you have about up to 12 different options, and one of those options going to be right, and I was right.
yeah.
I don't. It's one of those you don't guess necessarily, but you guess within your rubric of options, and so is that I call it the bingo board. So that
Right.
is it.
Yeah.
Um,
Last I want to say though, this really is proving that yeah, there are, new ideas, new stories. I would really call them fully original because as much as I want to call us original, because I was thinking about Invasion of the Body Snatchers so much times while I was watching this, it's like, yeah, it's clearly inspired by, classic films like that. Um and also sci-fi films as well, okay? Yeah, it does have a slight kind of sci-fi tinge to it,
right.
right? But yeah, this is like just really proving that that like the horror genre is will stand the test of time. Stuff like Hereditary, The Witch, and Us. Yeah, they're just proven that you could do so much more with horror than this. Visceral thrills and just blood and gore and stuff like that. And if one thing, if you notice, they really emphasize too much on the blood. Like when the violent acts were happening, it's either off screen or it's from just the camera looking at the person doing the act, and you would just see like splatters of blood, but they wouldn't really emphasize on blood and gore and stuff like that, even though it's there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
just really proving that yeah, horror is not going anywhere anytime soon. And well, I didn't mention this early on, but I still think that there is something up with the characters themselves, the human characters. Like, and once again, me thinking about the intentionality of the film, I was wondering if it's just, you know, um, whether it's like, okay, these are film characters, and the reason why they're acting like that is because they're in film, and the real characters, you know what I mean, outside of what we're seeing on screen. So, just so much ways to interpret the film now. But yeah,
Right.
I mean, if that was the point, then Jordan Peele really nails it. You know what I mean? Just really giving us challenging films like that. And yeah, I
Right.
praise the ambition. I mean, it's not too, over the top and whatnot. It's not like being too pretentious and arty. I'm a big director. You know what I mean? I could do arty
Right.
farty stuff. That no, the man. This is his second film, but
Right.
I just want to see more great films from him. I hope that he doesn't, you know, drop off and become an M Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
But
For
yeah,
real.
I mean, one of these days, I want to sit back and kick back and watch a Jordan Peele marathon and be entertained throughout, man. So yeah, sky's the limit for Jordan Peele. This is another, example of how great he is just as just in terms of creativity and whatnot. Even though it might be 100% excellent, and yeah, I just can't wait to see what he does with Twilight Zone. With that series starting tomorrow, the time it's recorded. And yeah, just his other movies as well. Just really can't wait to see what he does next.
Yeah.
All right. So with all that being said, Ricardo, where can we find you online?
I'm Prasad, RMEDDY. That is at RMEDD on Twitter. And you can type in Ricardo Medina on Facebook. You can find me.
All right. You can find me on Twitter as well. Just look for Bear Beat Bailey. On Instagram, it's Bears Beats and Bailey. And on Facebook, just look for my name, Matthew Bailey, along with Illegally Black Blog official fan base, where you find the link to this podcast as well as the others that we've done over the past few years, including retrospect reviews.